So, I want to talk about the Xbox ROG Ally, or the ROG Xbox Ally, or whatever the heck naming scheme you want to call it. I am interested in getting a Steam Deck, and I have made that clear prior to this. And one of the things that I was kind of keeping my eye out was on this ROG Ally. Because I heard, Xbox was going to do their thing. They're going to partner up with someone who's done this in the past. And I wanted to see what we were going to get. Well, now it looks like we know what we're going to get. I did watch a video or two going over it, and I'm now on the page. And I think I've made my decision. And I was actually somewhat interested in potentially getting this. I heard the ROG Ally X, which is the upper tier version, and this version. As you can see, the base tier version is $600. And you only get a 512 gigabyte SSD. That was kind of like, are you for real here? I could get spend $50 more, get the Steam Deck, the upper tier, or the highest tier version, and I get a 1 terabyte. So I was like, okay, how much is this? Apparently this is an estimation and might be subject to change, but they're listing it at $1,000. And it's supposedly coming out tomorrow. It says available October 16th, and right now it's the 15th, almost gonna be the 16th. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not so sure this is a good thing, but I want to look into it some more. Like, actually see what they have for their specs. Here's their sales pitch. I'm not really interested in this. Yes, Game Pass, cloud streaming and all this other stuff. Buy it once, and own it forever, I think is one of the things they say, or some crap like that. And this had, as you can see right here, you have ROG Ally X, and then the weaker version. So this is the good stuff. This is the lower tier stuff. So you have 24 gigabytes and 16 gigabytes over here. And obviously you have the hard drive space. This might mean something to people who actually understand what this means, but from a just, casual perspective, this doesn't mean crap to me. But where I actually was somewhat interested in this, or I should say pretty interested in this, is when I looked at the battery, 60 and 80. The highest tier version has a 50. So that means this would be 10 more and this would be 30 more. And apparently, at least according to the videos that I watched, apparently their battery is, larger. Apparently it charges quicker than Valve's Steam Deck. So I was actually somewhat interested. I was actually thinking about, doing more in-depth research into the ROG Ally and the ROG Ally X to see if maybe that might be where I go down. Because it's October 16th. I'm not planning on getting any one of these until around my birthday, early next year. That is the time frame that I am expecting to go for it. And I'm just going to be real. One comment saved me from even bothering to do more research into this, and the fact that none of these apparently have an OLED. So the screens on both of these are not OLED. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe that comment was wrong. Maybe they're incorrect. Maybe they're... But if that is true, I have lost any interest in this. Because OLED is something that... Correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't... it's not as easy to get burn-in on the screens, like on an OLED screen versus an LCD. I'm simplifying this, but if that's my understanding and how that works, I am probably going to look into that a little bit more. But if that is true, and it's easier to get burn-in on your screen on an LCD versus a OLED, I'm going to go get an OLED. Another thing is, I've seen videos where they showcase the OLED versus the LCD screen, and honestly, from what they're showing through the videos, the OLED looks more appealing to me. So that's two things that an OLED has potentially. It might just be one. And I did a video talking about they don't understand handheld gaming. And to be honest, I should have probably changed that. It's just they don't understand gaming in general. The power of the machine is irrelevant on the success of it, especially when it comes to consoles and, anything that ain't the most powerful gaming PC. Because gamers look for, like if you're just looking at overall, obviously some gamers will look for the most powerful handheld and whatnot. They're the outlier. Most people are just going to look for the best device that they can play the games they enjoy. And best does not necessarily mean more powerful. It could be the feels of the controllers. It could be the way it feels in their hands. It could be they don't care about the power. They just want to be able to play it. And if they're able to play it with a nice, with a good enough feel or just good enough quality, when just screen wise, when they're actually looking at the screen for their gameplay, and it's significantly cheaper than the competitor who has the most powerful one, they're gonna go for the one that just does it good enough. Because that's it. They don't really care about that, and I'm honestly kind of in that same boat. Gamers, if you look at the Game Boy Advance or the Nintendo DS with the Game Boy Color, you are not playing games that were, the state of the art at the time. You weren't playing Final Fantasy VII on a Game Boy Color. You were not playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas on a Game Boy Advance. You were not playing, what would be Uncharted, the Uncharted games on a Nintendo DS. You just weren't. Doesn't mean those consoles or handhelds did not have good games on it. In fact, there's a lot of good games on there. I played a lot of games on those handhelds. But if I wanted to play those games, I would play it on the actual console. Like those high quality games, I would just play it on the console that I was able to play it on. Whether it be PS1, Nintendo 64, original Xbox, or PS2. I didn't have a PS3 or an Xbox 360. That's when I kind of made my switch over to gaming PCs. So, yeah, that's just the way I see it. So when I'm looking for a device, this up here, well, holy crap, there's a lot of. This right here is way too expensive. I don't think I'm gonna get anything like Steam Deck does a good enough job based on the reviews and stuff that I've been seeing of the Steam Deck OLED, the highest tiered one. And honestly, I think it would have been a little bit more interesting is if this $600 tier had the 1 terabyte. Then it might have actually had to put a little bit more thought in here. But the fact that this lacks not only the OLED screen, but the 1 terabyte SSD, heck, this should have been a 2. If this is like $2,000, or not $2,000, if this is $1,000, this should have been a 2 terabyte, and this should have been a 1 terabyte. That would have been pretty outstanding. It's like, oh, you want the ROG Ally? That already has, the lowest tier has a 1 terabyte, and this one has a 2 terabyte. You might interest a few more casual people into buying that, but I think this is a pretty big miss. And honestly, I lost interest in this. Steam Deck is far more appealing. I've done quite a few videos. If you want more of my thoughts on it, you can check it out. And I'll say this. If you didn't see one of my previous videos on that, I even talked the fact that my mom wanted a Steam Deck. Yeah. She's actually thinking about getting a handheld gaming because she usually plays little games on her phone. But she's thinking about maybe potentially getting the lower tiered Steam Deck, which, at the time was on sale for $320, but the $400 Steam Deck. And it's like, yeah. The fact that she's even thinking about it is insane. The fact that she wants one, or is thinking about getting one, that's just kind of crazy to think about. The fact, and for those who don't know, my mom's over 70 years old. I'm not going to get into a specific age, but yeah, she's over 70 years old and she wants one. And I'm like, dang, that's kind of crazy to think about. She wouldn't want this one. $600. She would go for the 400. Maybe the middle tier. What was it? What was it? The base price $550 for the middle tier, or not the base price? The middle tier is like $550. I don't think she would go for that one because she probably wouldn't play a lot of games. She'd probably like if I were to hazard a guess, she would probably play games like Golf with Your Friends. I think Steam had a couple like board game style ones, like if they had like Monopoly or Game of Life or something along those lines on there. She'd probably play that if it's Steam Deck verified. But yeah, that's pretty much the kind of game she would play. Maybe the new Sonic Racing game she might play on there if it's Steam Deck verified. And yeah, those are the kinds of games she would play. She's not going to be playing like a lot of crazy games. Maybe I could probably get her into like try to Spyro one, like some easier, cozy type of games. But yeah, she wouldn't even think about this higher tiered version or this one. And honestly, I don't think I think I'm not sure what the exact interest is, because the thing is, the internet is not always a good gauge on how successful something is going to be. But from my experience, like just like a casual, person's experience, I'm not the guy who's building computers or anything like that. Maybe for like enthusiasts, this might be something that they would actually love. But from a casual perspective, I'm just like, yeah, this is not even worth it. I don't need it. I don't need this. Like, if I want to play something powerful, I'll just play on my PC. Steam Deck does a good enough job at a much more cheaper price to get what I want done, or to get what I want out of it. Just play some of these games on my backlog. So, yeah. On top of that, Valve and Steam have a pretty good track record for being more pro-consumer than a lot of other companies. I mean, shit. Xbox just increased their price of, what was it? Game Pass Ultimate by $10 or 50%. In some regions, it's actually 100% increase in price. So it's just like, yeah, heck no. But anywho, that's pretty much it for me. Let me know what you guys think. Are you guys going to get a Xbox ROG Ally or ROG Xbox Ally? I really hate that naming scheme. But anyhow, yeah. In my opinion, I don't think, like, you might have an initial success, but I don't think this is going to be long-term success from this.